The Gathering Storm. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the Zorgan Empire reigned supreme. With advanced technology and a powerful military, they had conquered countless worlds and subjugated numerous species. Their dominion seemed unstoppable. Emperor Zorkan sat upon his throne, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "What news do you bring me, Admiral Kravar?" The admiral bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, our long-range scouts have discovered a new species on the edges of our territory. They call themselves humans." Zorkan leaned forward, intrigued. "Tell me more about these humans." Kravar activated a holographic display, revealing images of Earth and its inhabitants. They are a relatively primitive species, having only recently achieved interstellar travel. Their technology is vastly inferior to ours. A cruel smile played across the Emperor's lips. "They sound like easy prey, a perfect target for our next conquest." "Indeed, Your Majesty," Kravar agreed. "Our analysts predict that their defenses will crumble swiftly before our might." Zorkan rose from his throne, his imposing figure commanding attention. "Prepare the fleet, Admiral. We shall show these humans the true power of the Zorgan Empire." As the command was given, the Zorgan war machines sprang into action. Massive battleships, bristling with advanced weaponry, assembled in formation. Legions of Zorgan warriors, genetically engineered for combat, boarded the vessels, their faces etched with determination. News of the impending invasion spread like wildfire throughout the empire. Zorgan citizens celebrated in the streets, confident in their military's invincibility. The conquest of Earth was seen as a mere formality, another notch in the Empire's belt of triumphs. Little did they know that the humans, despite their perceived weaknesses, possessed an inner strength that would be put to the ultimate test. The Zorgans, blinded by their own arrogance, were about to underestimate the resolve of a species that had endured countless wars and emerged stronger each time. As the Zorgan fleet set course for Earth, the humans remained oblivious to the gathering storm that threatened their very existence. The stage was set for a clash of civilizations, a battle that would determine the fate of not only Earth but the galaxy itself. The Zorgan ships, sleek and menacing, tore through the fabric of space, their advanced propulsion systems propelling them towards their unsuspecting target. The journey would take several Earth weeks, but for the Zorgans, it was a mere blink of an eye. On the bridge of the flagship, Emperor Zorkan stood tall, his gaze fixed upon the viewscreen displaying the vast emptiness of space. "Soon," he muttered, his voice laced with anticipation. "Soon, the humans will kneel before the might of the Zorgan Empire." Admiral Kravar, ever loyal, nodded in agreement. "They will have no choice but to surrender, Your Majesty. Our victory is assured." As the fleet pressed onwards, the Zorgans reveled in their perceived superiority. They exchanged tales of past conquests and boasted of the riches and glory that awaited them on Earth. The idea of a primitive species daring to resist their advance was laughable. But even as the Zorgans basked in their own confidence, a sense of unease began to stir within the ranks of their military strategists. Reports from the long-range scouts suggested that the humans, despite their technological inferiority, possessed a fierce determination and an uncanny ability to adapt in the face of adversity. These whispers of concern were quickly dismissed by the Zorgan leadership, chalked up to the overly cautious nature of the strategists. After all, no species had ever withstood the full might of the Zorgan war machine. Earth would be no different. As the fleet drew ever closer to its destination, the humans remained blissfully unaware of the impending danger. They continued their daily lives, unaware that their world was about to be plunged into a war unlike any they had ever known. The Zorgans, confident in their superiority, pressed onwards, their ships cutting through the void of space like a blade through flesh. Little did they know that their arrogance would be their greatest weakness, and that the humans, with their indomitable spirit, would prove to be a formidable foe. The gathering storm was about to break, and the galaxy would bear witness to a clash of civilizations that would echo through the ages. The Zorgans, in their quest for dominion, were about to learn the true meaning of human resilience, arrival, and assault. The Zorgan fleet emerged from hyperspace, the massive ships casting ominous shadows over the blue and green world below. Earth, the cradle of humanity, lay before them, ripe for conquest. On the surface, panic gripped the population as alien vessels filled the skies. Governments scrambled to mobilize their defenses, but the Zorgans had already made their move. A booming voice echoed through every communication channel on the planet. "Attention, humans of Earth. We are the Zorgan Empire, and we have come to claim your world as our own. Surrender immediately, and your lives will be spared. Resist, and face the consequences of defying the might of the Zorgans." The ultimatum hung in the air, a declaration of war that sent shockwaves through every nation. World leaders convened in emergency meetings, weighing their options in the face of an overwhelming adversary. But the humans, for all their divisions and rivalries, were united in one thing: their refusal to bow to an alien aggressor. They had fought too hard and sacrificed too much to surrender their freedom without a fight. The Earth Defense Forces, a global military alliance formed in the wake of first contact with extraterrestrial life, sprang into action. Fighter jets screamed through the skies, engaging the Zorgan ships in desperate dogfights. Ground-based missile batteries unleashed salvos of rockets, attempting to pierce the enemy's advanced shielding. The Zorgans, however, were not caught off guard. Their ships, armed with devastating energy weapons, swatted the human fighters from the air like insects. The missiles, despite their destructive power, barely dented the Zorgan defenses. As the aerial battle raged, Zorgan troops began their ground assault. Dropships disgorged hordes of genetically engineered warriors, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. They marched through the streets of Earth's cities, their weapons primed and ready. The human resistance was fierce and determined. Soldiers and civilians alike took up arms, engaging the Zorgan invaders in brutal urban combat. The streets became battlefields, littered with the debris of war and the bodies of the fallen. But for every Zorgan soldier that fell, two more seemed to take their place. The aliens' superior technology and numbers began to take their toll on the human defenders. City after city fell to the Zorgan onslaught, the once proud metropolises reduced to smoldering ruins. In the midst of the chaos, stories of human bravery and sacrifice emerge. A squad of soldiers holding a vital bridge against a Zorgan armored division, a pilot ramming their fighter into a Zorgan battleship, sacrificing their life to take out a key enemy asset. Civilians risking everything to smuggle supplies and information to the resistance. Despite their valiant efforts, the humans were being pushed back. The Zorgans, with their relentless advance and superior firepower, seemed unstoppable. The skies burned with the wreckage of downed human aircraft, and the streets ran red with the blood of the fallen. But even as the situation grew dire, the humans refused to give up. They fought on, driven by a fierce determination to protect their world and their way of life. Every inch of ground was contested, every Zorgan victory coming at a high cost. The Zorgan field commander, Kelthar, watched the carnage unfold with a growing sense of unease. He had expected the humans to crumble quickly under the might of the Zorgan war machine, but their tenacity and resolve surprised him. As the battles raged on, and the human resistance showed no signs of wavering, Kelthar began to question the wisdom of the invasion. The humans, for all their technological inferiority, possessed a spirit that the Zorgans had rarely encountered in their conquests. The arrival and assault had not gone as planned, and the humans were proving to be a far greater challenge than the Zorgans had anticipated. The stage was set for a prolonged and brutal conflict, one that would test the mettle of both sides and reshape the fate of the galaxy. Little did the Zorgans know that the humans' fear of war was not a weakness, but a source of strength. For in their fear, the humans found the courage to stand against an overwhelming foe and fight for their very existence. Uncovering the truth, Kelthar stood on the bridge of his command ship, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays depicting the ongoing battles on Earth's surface. The humans, despite their heavy losses, continued to resist with a ferocity that defied explanation. The Zorgan field commander had seen countless species fall before the might of the Empire, their wills broken and their spirits crushed. But the humans were different. They'd fought on, even in the face of certain defeat, their determination unwavering. Kelthar turned to his aide, a young Zorgan officer named Zarek. "I don't understand," he said, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Why do the humans continue to fight when it is clear they cannot win?" Zarek shrugged, his own bewilderment evident. "Perhaps they are simply stubborn, Commander. Or maybe they are too primitive to comprehend the futility of their actions." But Kelthar was not satisfied with those explanations. He had seen stubbornness and ignorance in other species, but there was something more to the humans' resistance, something deeper, more profound. The field commander made a decision. "I need to understand these humans better. Zarek, bring me all the information we have on their history and culture. I want to know what drives them, what motivates them to fight against such overwhelming odds." Zarek nodded and set to work, compiling data from the Zorgan's extensive archives. Kelthar immersed himself in the study of human civilization, poring over records of their wars, their triumphs, and their tragedies. As he delved deeper into human history, a picture began to emerge. The humans, despite their many differences and conflicts, shared a common thread, a deep-seated fear of war and its consequences. Kelthar read accounts of the devastation wrought by human conflicts, of cities reduced to rubble, and entire generations lost to the horrors of the battlefield. He learned of the scars left on the human psyche by centuries of warfare, of the nightmares that haunted the survivors, and the trauma passed down through generations. But amidst the darkness, Kelthar also found stories of incredible resilience and courage, of individuals who stood up against tyranny and oppression, even in the face of overwhelming odds, of societies that rebuilt from the ashes of war, determined to create a better future. And then, in a moment of clarity, Kelthar understood. The humans didn't fear war itself, but what war turned them into. They feared losing their humanity, their compassion, their very souls in the crucible of conflict. The field commander leaned back in his chair, his mind reeling with the implications of his discovery. The Zorgans had always seen war as a means to an end, a necessary tool for conquest and domination. But the humans viewed it as a force that could strip them of their very essence. Kelthar knew he had to share this revelation with the Zorgan High Command. He rushed to establish a communication link with the Emperor, desperate to convey the truth about the humans. But as he laid out his findings, he was met with scorn and dismissal. The Emperor and his advisors refused to believe that a primitive species like the humans could possess such depth of character. They saw Kelthar's insights as a sign of weakness, a failure to uphold the Zorgan ideals of strength and conquest. Frustrated and disillusioned, Kelthar cut the communication, his heart heavy with the knowledge that his own people were blinded by their arrogance. He knew that the Zorgans' underestimation of the humans would be their downfall. As the battles raged on, Kelthar watched with a newfound respect for the human defenders. He saw their fear, their pain, their suffering, but also their unwavering determination to protect what they held dear. In that moment, the field commander made a decision that would change the course of the war and the fate of both species. He would no longer be a pawn in the Zorgans' game of conquest. He would stand with the humans, fight alongside them, and help them uncover the truth that could save them all. For Kelthar had seen the depths of the human spirit, and he knew that their fear of war was not a weakness, but a strength that could topple an empire. And he would do everything in his power to ensure that the Zorgans learned this lesson, even if it meant turning against his own kind. Turning the tide. In the depths of Earth's resistance strongholds, human scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, poring over the captured Zorgan technology. They studied the advanced weaponry, the propulsion systems, the shielding devices, searching for any weakness they could exploit. Leading the research efforts was Dr. Liana Novik, a brilliant physicist who had dedicated her life to understanding the mysteries of the universe. She and her team worked around the clock, fueled by a desperate need to find a way to level the playing field against the Zorgan invaders. As the days turned into weeks, breakthroughs began to emerge. The human scientists discovered ways to reverse engineer the Zorgan technology, adapting it to their own devices. They created hybrid weapons that combined the best of human ingenuity with the raw power of Zorgan science. In hidden factories across the planet, the Resistance began to churn out these new weapons. Fighters equipped with Zorgan-enhanced engines and shielding took to the skies, capable of matching the alien ships in speed and maneuverability. Ground troops armed with energy rifles and armor that could withstand Zorgan blasts turned the tide of battle in the streets. The Zorgans, caught off guard by the sudden surge in human capabilities, found themselves on the defensive. Their once invincible ships and soldiers now faced a foe that could strike back with devastating force. Amidst the turning tide of the war, Kelthar made contact with the human resistance. He had grown disillusioned with the Zorgan Empire's brutal conquest and saw the humans' cause as just. In secret meetings with resistance leaders, he shared vital intel on Zorgan tactics and weaknesses. Dr. Novak and her team worked closely with Kelthar, combining their scientific knowledge with his insider information. Together, they developed even more advanced weapons and strategies to counter the Zorgan threat. As the human resistance grew in strength, they launched a series of daring offensives against key Zorgan positions. Strike teams infiltrated enemy bases, sabotaging vital systems and stealing valuable technology. Massive battles erupted in the skies and on the ground, as the humans pushed back against their alien oppressors. The Zorgans, reeling from the unexpected turn of events, began to fracture from within. Some, like Kelthar, questioned the morality of their empire's actions and sought to find a peaceful resolution. Others, driven by anger and humiliation, doubled down on their aggression, determined to crush the human resistance at any cost. Kelthar found himself at the center of a growing movement within the Zorgan ranks, a faction that believed in the possibility of coexistence with the humans. He worked tirelessly to convince his fellow soldiers to lay down their arms and seek a diplomatic solution. But the Zorgan High Command, blinded by their own hubris, refused to consider any outcome other than total victory. They saw Kelthar and his followers as traitors, a cancer that needed to be excised from the Empire. As the war reached a critical juncture, the humans launched their most ambitious offensive yet. Using a combination of stealth technology and misdirection, they'd managed to draw the bulk of the Zorgan fleet into a trap. In a daring raid, human forces struck at the heart of the Zorgan command structure, targeting the Emperor himself. The battle was fierce and costly, with losses on both sides. But in the end, the humans' bold strategy paid off. The Zorgan Emperor was captured, and his flagship lay in ruins. The once mighty Zorgan fleet was thrown into disarray, their chain of command shattered. Seizing the moment, Kelthar and his allies made their move. They staged a coup within the Zorgan ranks, overthrowing the hardliners who had pushed for the invasion of Earth. With the Emperor in human custody and the fleet in chaos, they called for an immediate ceasefire. The tide had turned, and the humans now held the upper hand. But even as the Zorgan Empire teetered on the brink of collapse, the true test of humanity's resolve was yet to come. For in the aftermath of the war, they would have to decide. The final stand. The capture of the Zorgan Emperor and the coup led by Kelthar had thrown the alien forces into disarray. The once unified Zorgan fleet fractured, with some ships remaining loyal to the old regime, while others sided with Kelthar's reformist faction. Seizing the opportunity, the human resistance launched a series of coordinated strikes against the weakened Zorgan positions. The hybrid human-Zorgan weapons proved devastatingly effective, cutting through enemy defenses like a hot knife through butter. The Zorgan loyalists, desperate to regain control, threw everything they had into a final desperate stand. They massed their remaining ships and troops around key strategic locations, determined to make the humans pay for every inch of ground. The battles that followed were among the bloodiest and most intense of the entire war. Human fighters engaged in vicious dogfights with Zorgan ships, while on the ground, infantry clashed in brutal close-quarters combat. Despite the ferocity of the Zorgan resistance, the human forces continued to advance. They were driven by a newfound sense of hope and determination, fueled by the knowledge that victory was within their grasp. As the fighting raged on, Kelifar and his allies worked tirelessly to convince more Zorgan ships and troops to lay down their arms. They broadcasted messages of peace and unity, urging their fellow Zorgans to reject the old ways of conquest and domination. Some heeded the call, joining the growing ranks of Zorgan defectors. Others, too deeply indoctrinated in the Empire's ideology, fought on with fanatical zeal, refusing to accept defeat at the hands of a lesser species. In a final desperate gamble, the Zorgan loyalists launched a massive counterattack aimed at the heart of the human resistance. They targeted the underground bunkers and hidden bases where the human scientists and engineers had been working to reverse engineer Zorgan technology. The battle was intense and bloody, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The Zorgans, armed with the last of their advanced weaponry, seemed poised to break through the human defenses and destroy the Resistance's vital research facilities. But at the critical moment, Kelifar and his Zorgan allies arrived on the scene. They had managed to convince a significant portion of the Zorgan fleet to defect, and now they brought their ships to bear against their former comrades. The tide of the battle turned once again, as the combined human and Zorgan forces pushed back against the Loyalist attack. In a series of daring raids, they managed to disable or destroy the remaining Zorgan ships, leaving the Loyalists stranded and cut off from reinforcements. Seeing the futility of further resistance, the human leadership broadcast a message to the remaining Zorgan forces. They offered to cease hostilities if the Zorgans agreed to withdraw from Earth and enter into peace negotiations. Some of the Zorgan commanders, weary of the fighting and recognizing the changed political landscape, accepted the offer. They laid down their arms and prepared to return to their ships, ready to begin the long process of rebuilding their society. But others, consumed by pride and a refusal to accept defeat, chose to fight to the bitter end. They launched suicidal attacks against the human and allied Zorgan positions, determined to inflict as much damage as possible before they were inevitably overwhelmed. In the end, the last pockets of Zorgan resistance were crushed, and the war for Earth came to a close. The human homeworld had been saved, but at a terrible cost in lives and resources. As the dust settled and the weapons fell silent, the true scope of the challenge ahead became clear. The humans and their Zorgan allies would have to work together to rebuild not just Earth, but the shattered Zorgan society as well. It would be a long and difficult road, fraught with obstacles and setbacks. But for the first time in generations, there was a real chance for lasting peace and understanding between the two species. The final stand had been made, and the humans had emerged victorious. But the true test of their wisdom and resilience was still to come, as they sought to forge a new future from the ashes of war. Aftermath and reflection. In the wake of the Zorgan War, Earth lay in ruins. The once vibrant cities had been reduced to rubble, and the scars of battle were etched into the landscape. But amidst the destruction, there was also a sense of hope and determination. The humans, having fought so hard and sacrificed so much, were determined to rebuild. They set about the monumental task of clearing away the debris, tending to the wounded, and burying the dead. At the same time, they reached out to their new Zorgan allies, led by Kelifar. The two species, once bitter enemies, now found themselves working side by side to create a new future. Kelifar, hailed as a hero by both humans and reformed Zorgans, took on the challenging role of mediator between the two civilizations. He worked tirelessly to foster understanding and cooperation, knowing that the road ahead would be long and difficult. As the weeks turned into months, the rebuilding efforts began to bear fruit. Human cities rose from the ashes, their skylines once again reaching towards the heavens. Zorgan technology, now freely shared, helped to accelerate the process, bringing new levels of efficiency and innovation. But even as the physical wounds of the war began to heal, the psychological scars remained. Both humans and Zorgans struggled to come to terms with the trauma they had endured, the losses they had suffered. In quiet moments of reflection, Kelthar often found himself pondering the lessons of the war. He realized that the Zorgans' arrogance and belief in their own superiority had blinded them to the true strength of the human spirit. The humans, for all their technological inferiority, had possessed something far more powerful, a deep-seated fear of war, born from centuries of conflict and suffering. But rather than paralyzing them, this fear had driven them to fight harder, to stand up against impossible odds. Kelthar saw now that the humans' fear of war was not a weakness, but a source of strength. It had given them the courage to resist, to adapt, and ultimately, to triumph. As the months turned into years, the alliance between Earth and the reformed Zorgan worlds grew stronger. Trade flourished, and cultural exchanges helped to break down the barriers of mistrust and prejudice. Human scientists and Zorgan engineers worked together to push the boundaries of what was possible, developing new technologies and solutions to the challenges faced by both civilizations. But even as they looked to the future, the humans never forgot the lessons of the past. They knew that their fear of war, their determination to avoid the horrors of conflict, was what had saved them in their darkest hour. They enshrined this lesson in their education systems, in their art and literature, in the very fabric of their society. They vowed never to forget the sacrifices of those who had fought and died to protect their way of life. As for Kelthar, he found a new purpose in life as a bridge between worlds. He dedicated himself to promoting peace and understanding, to ensuring that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. In the end, the Zorgan War had changed everything. It had rewritten the destiny of two species, forcing them to confront their deepest fears and to find strength in the face of adversity. The humans had emerged from the crucible of war stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. They had learned that their fear of war, far from being a weakness, was the key to their survival and their success. And as they looked out across the stars, towards a future filled with infinite possibilities, they knew that they would face whatever challenges lay ahead with the same courage, determination, and resilience that had carried them through their darkest hour. For the humans had discovered the truth about themselves, about the indomitable spirit that lay at the core of their being. And with that knowledge, they were ready to take their place among the great civilizations of the galaxy, to forge a new path towards a brighter tomorrow.